At 81, Danny DeVito admits she is only love of his life. You know what caught me off guard about Danny DeVito? It wasn't one of his movies. It wasn't Batman, Taxi, or even Matilda. It was something he said about one person who quietly shaped his entire life. I expected another Hollywood love story that ended in heartbreak. Instead, I found a relationship that refused to fit into any category people normally understand. For all the unforgettable characters Danny DeVito has played, there was only one person who truly saw him long before the rest of the world ever did. And at 81, he's made it clear that she remains the greatest love of his life. It's fascinating because Danny's career has always been built around standing out. At just 4 feet 10 inches tall, he never looked like the traditional movie star. Yet somehow, whenever he appeared on screen, your eyes drifted toward him. He had that rare ability to dominate a scene without saying much at all. But long before audiences knew his name, life had already handed him more challenges than most people ever realize. Danny was born on November 17, 1944, in Neptune, New Jersey. Even as a child, he carried the feeling that he didn't quite belong. His mother later admitted that she hadn't planned on having another baby. Years afterward, she also said she was proud of him. Imagine growing up with both of those thoughts living in your head at the same time.
One sentence tells you that you weren't expected. The next reminds you that you became someone worth celebrating. I can't help thinking that those mixed emotions probably stayed with him for years. Home wasn't always peaceful either.
His father ran a candy store and was known around town as a kind man. But alcohol changed everything behind closed doors. Those evenings became unpredictable, and young Danny learned something many children unfortunately learn far too early: how to read the mood in a room before anyone even spoke. Sometimes he stayed out of sight. Sometimes he looked for safety somewhere else. Those experiences don't simply disappear because you grow older. They shape the way you see yourself. There was another battle happening at the same time, one nobody else could fully understand.
Danny was born with a rare genetic condition that affected the development of his bones and joints. His height became the first thing strangers noticed, but according to people close to him, the physical pain was often the much bigger challenge. His hips, knees, and back caused him constant discomfort, even as a young adult.
The surprising part, very few people in Hollywood knew how much pain he was dealing with. Back then, admitting weakness wasn't considered good for your career. So instead of talking about it, Danny simply kept working. Looking back, that says a lot about the kind of
determination he carried. The road to becoming an actor wasn't glamorous either. Before anyone recognized him, he shared a tiny apartment in New York with another struggling actor named Michael Douglas. Neither of them knew what the future would look like. Money was almost non-existent. They stretched every dollar they had, shared meals that were as cheap as possible, and hoped tomorrow might finally bring an opportunity. Michael started booking jobs. Danny kept hearing no, again and again. To survive, he parked cars, took odd jobs, and even worked as a mannequin in store windows.
There were periods when he had so little that he relied on his old Volkswagen Beetle and public facilities just to get through another week. Most people would have walked away from acting. Danny never did. One story from those years really stuck with me. A studio executive reportedly suggested that cosmetic surgery could make him easier to market. The offer represented a life-changing amount of money for someone who had almost none. Think about that for a second. He wasn't being told he lacked talent. He was being told that his face needed to change. Danny refused. His answer became one of the defining beliefs of his life. He'd rather succeed as himself than become someone else just to fit Hollywood's expectations. That decision could have cost him everything. Instead, it became one of the reasons audiences remembered him. By 1970, he was 26 years old. He had endured rejection after rejection. His body hurt almost every day. His career barely existed. But something much more important than fame was waiting around the corner. It happened inside a small off-Broadway theater. Not a major premiere, not a glamorous event, just another evening performance that almost nobody remembers today. Except for one audience member. Her name was Rhea Perlman. She hadn't bought a ticket to see Danny. She was there to support a friend appearing in the production. But somewhere during the performance, her attention shifted completely. She couldn't stop watching the stocky actor commanding the stage. He wasn't the tallest. He wasn't conventionally handsome, yet there was something magnetic about him. Years later, Rhea admitted she wanted to meet him immediately after the curtain came down. She didn't wait around hoping someone would introduce them. She introduced herself. I've always loved that part of their story, because it feels wonderfully ordinary. No dramatic Hollywood setup, no movie-style coincidence. Just one person deciding another person was too interesting to let walk away. They talked over dinner. Hours passed without either of them noticing.
Danny would later say he knew almost instantly that she'd become the woman he wanted beside him for the rest of his life. That's a bold statement, but what happened next makes it even more remarkable. Only 2 weeks later, they were living together. Some people would have called it reckless. For them, it simply felt right. Both came from hardworking families.
Both were chasing careers with no guarantees. Both understood disappointment well enough to recognize genuine kindness when they found it. Instead of rushing toward marriage, they spent more than a decade building a life together first. Papers could wait. What mattered to them was the partnership they were creating every day. Ironically, while his personal life finally felt stable, his professional breakthrough was still waiting. That opportunity came thanks to an old roommate who hadn't forgotten him. Michael Douglas had become a producer and was helping bring One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to the screen.
He believed Danny deserved a role, even when others wanted a more recognizable actor. He kept pushing. Eventually, Danny was cast as Martini, a character he had already portrayed on stage. His screen time wasn't long, but sometimes a few unforgettable minutes can change an entire career.
Suddenly, Hollywood could no longer ignore the actor it had spent years overlooking. And honestly, after everything he'd survived just to reach that moment, it almost feels like fate had finally decided it was his turn.